Hello there, lovely listeners. I'm Emma, and welcome to another episode of Real World English, where we make English learning practical, fun, and accessible for everyone.
And I'm Jake. Great to be here with you all today. Emma, I have to say, it's such a beautiful morning here. How has your day been so far?
Oh, it's been wonderful, Jake. I woke up early, had a nice cup of coffee on my porch, and watched the sunrise. Sometimes those simple moments are just perfect, you know?
I completely understand. I took my dog for a long walk this morning, and we both enjoyed the fresh air. There's something special about starting your day connected to nature.
That sounds lovely. And speaking of special things, we're so delighted to have all our listeners joining us today. Whether you're a first-time listener or you've been with us from the beginning, we're truly grateful to have you here.
Absolutely. And today, we've got something really exciting to share. It's a concept that completely changed my approach to language learning when I first discovered it.
Oh yes, today's topic is something that can truly transform how our listeners approach their English learning journey. We're talking about what language experts call the 80-20 rule for vocabulary learning.
That's right. Imagine if I told you that by learning just 20% of English vocabulary, you could understand about 80% of everyday conversations. Would that sound too good to be true?
It might sound that way, but it's actually based on a well-established principle called the Pareto Principle, or the 80-20 rule. And when applied to language learning, it's incredibly powerful.
Before we dive in, let me ask you something, Emma. Do you remember when you were learning Spanish? What was the most frustrating part?
Oh, definitely trying to memorize endless lists of vocabulary. I felt like I needed to know every word in the dictionary to have a simple conversation. I would spend hours with flashcards, only to forget most of them the next day.
Exactly. And I bet many of our listeners feel the same way about English, that overwhelming feeling that there are just too many words to learn.
Well, today we're going to show you how to work smarter, not harder, by focusing on the most important 20% of vocabulary that will give you 80% of fluency. Let's break it down.
So the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto Principle, was originally observed by an Italian economist named Vilfredo Pareto. He noticed that roughly 80% of effects come from 20% of causes.
And when we apply this to language learning, it means that about 20% of the words in English are used in about 80% of everyday conversations. Isn't that amazing?
It really is. In English, research shows that knowing just the 2,000 most common words allows you to understand about 80% of most texts and conversations. That's much more manageable than the 170,000 plus words in the Oxford English Dictionary.
Now, let's make this practical. What exactly are these high-frequency words that make up that valuable 20%?
Great question. They generally fall into a few categories. Common verbs like be, have, do, and get, pronouns like I, you, we, prepositions such as in, on, at, and the most frequently used nouns and adjectives.
Let's demonstrate this with a role-play scenario. Imagine we're at a coffee shop, and I'll try to use mostly high-frequency words. Ready, Jake?
Ready when you are.
Hi there. How are you today? I'd like a coffee, please. Can I have it with milk? Thank you so much. Is it okay if I sit here by the window? The view is really nice.
Good morning. I'm doing well, thank you. Of course, one coffee with milk coming right up. And yes, please, feel free to sit by the window. It is a beautiful day outside. Would you like anything else with your coffee?
Maybe a small cake or cookie if you have them. I'm a bit hungry.
We have chocolate cookies and lemon cake today. Which would you prefer?
The cookie sounds good. How much is that altogether?
That will be $6.50. You can pay at the counter when you're ready.
Perfect. Thank you for your help.
You're welcome. Enjoy your coffee and cookie.
So, did you notice how that entire conversation used mostly simple, high-frequency words, and yet we communicated everything perfectly?
Absolutely. And if we analyze that conversation, about 90% of the words we used are among the most common 1,000 words in English. That's the power of the 80-20 rule in action.
Now, let's try another scenario, but this time I'll throw in some less common vocabulary. Listen to how it changes the conversation.
Sounds good.
Excuse me, I'd like to purchase a caffeinated beverage. Could you perhaps incorporate some dairy product into it? I'd be exceedingly grateful. Would it be permissible for me to position myself adjacent to the transparent barrier that allows for observation of the exterior environment?
I'm afraid I didn't catch all of that. Could you say it more simply?
See what happened there? Using unnecessary complex words made a simple request confusing. That's why focusing on high-frequency words is so important. They're the workhorses of communication.
Exactly. And this is especially important for our listeners who are still building their confidence in English. By mastering that critical 20% of vocabulary first, you'll be able to express yourself clearly in most situations.
Let's talk about how to identify these high-frequency words. Jake, what resources would you recommend?
There are some great word lists out there. The Oxford 3000 is excellent. It contains the 3,000 most important words in English. There's also the academic word list if you're studying at a university, or specialized vocabulary lists for business or medical fields.
And what about some practical ways to learn these words?
Well, one approach I love is learning through chunks or collocations. Instead of memorizing individual words, learn common phrases and expressions.
Can you give us an example of that?
Sure. Take the verb make, one of the most common verbs in English. Instead of just learning the word make, learn phrases like make coffee, make a decision, make time for, make sense, make a mistake, and so on.
That's so useful because those combinations are how we naturally use the language. And the great thing is, once you know one common verb like make and learn its common collocations, you've instantly expanded your ability to express many different ideas.
Exactly. Let's try another role play to demonstrate this. This time, let's imagine we're making plans for the weekend and we'll use lots of common collocations with high-frequency verbs.
That sounds perfect. I'll start. Hey, Jake, do you have any plans for this weekend? I was thinking we could get together and do something fun.
I'd love to. I need to run some errands in the morning, but I'm free in the afternoon. What did you have in mind?
Well, we could go see a movie or maybe take a walk in the park if the weather is nice. I heard they're having a small food festival downtown, too.
A food festival sounds great. I've been wanting to try some new cuisines. What time should we meet?
How about we meet at 2 p.m.? We can grab lunch there and spend the afternoon trying different foods.
Perfect. I'll pick you up at your place around 1:30, and we can walk there together. It's not too far, right?
Not at all. It's about a 15-minute walk from my apartment. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too. It's been a while since we hung out. Should I bring anything?
Just bring your appetite. And maybe a water bottle. It might be hot outside.
Sounds like a plan. See you Saturday at 1:30.
Did you notice all the useful phrases we used there? Have plans, get together, run errands, have in mind, grab lunch, pick you up, looking forward to it, bring anything, sounds like a plan. These are all common collocations using high-frequency verbs.
And these phrases are much more valuable to learn than, say, obscure vocabulary like juxtapose or mellifluous, unless you're preparing for a specialized context like academic writing or literary analysis.
So true. Now let's talk about some practical strategies our listeners can use to apply the 80-20 rule to their English learning.
Great idea. First, I'd recommend finding a good frequency list like the Oxford 3000 and focusing on mastering those words before moving on to less common vocabulary.
Second, when you learn a new high-frequency word, make sure you learn how it's commonly used. What words usually come before or after it? What phrases is it part of?
Third, analyze the content you consume in English. Whether it's podcasts like ours, YouTube videos, or articles, notice the words and phrases that come up repeatedly.
Fourth, practice using these high-frequency words in different contexts. The more you use them, the more natural they'll become.
And finally, be patient with yourself. Even with the 80-20 rule, language learning takes time. But by focusing on the right 20%, you'll make progress much faster.
Let's do one more role play to show how versatile these high-frequency words can be. This time, let's imagine we're discussing a work project.
Hi, Emma. Do you have a minute to talk about the Johnson project?
Of course, Jake. What's on your mind?
I'm a bit worried about the timeline. We need to finish everything by next Friday, but we still have so much work to do.
I understand your concern. Let's break it down and see what we can do. Which parts are taking the most time?
The design phase is moving slower than we expected. The client keeps asking for changes, and each one takes us back to square one.
That's frustrating. Maybe we should set up a meeting with the client to get a clear understanding of exactly what they want. That might save us time in the long run.
That's a good idea. I'll send an email today to arrange it. Could you join the call? You're better at explaining the technical limitations.
Definitely. Just let me know when, and I'll make time for it. I think if we can get everyone on the same page, we'll be able to move forward more quickly.
Perfect. Thanks for your help. I feel better about this already.
No problem at all. That's what teammates are for.
Again, did you notice how we communicated complex ideas, but used mostly simple, high-frequency words? That's the beauty of mastering this core vocabulary.
And the great thing is, once you've mastered this 20%, adding more specialized vocabulary becomes easier because you have a strong foundation.
Exactly. It's like building a house. You need a solid foundation before you start adding all the fancy details.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to share a few more practical tips for our listeners on how to apply the 80-20 rule to their English learning.
Great idea.
First, when you're reading or listening to English content, don't stop to look up every unfamiliar word. Instead, focus on understanding the main ideas using the words you already know.
Second, create your own personal dictionary of high-frequency words and phrases that are relevant to your life and interests. These will be different for everyone.
Third, practice using these words in different contexts, at work, with friends, while shopping, while traveling. The more contexts you use them in, the more deeply they'll become ingrained.
And finally, remember that fluency isn't about knowing every word in the dictionary. It's about communicating effectively. With the right 20% of vocabulary, you can do that.
We've covered a lot today, Jake. Let's quickly summarize what we've learned about the 80-20 rule for vocabulary learning.
Yes, let's do that. The key points are, first, about 20% of English vocabulary is used in about 80% of everyday communication.
Second, focusing on high-frequency words like common verbs, pronouns, prepositions, and everyday nouns and adjectives will give you the biggest return on your learning investment.
Third, learning words in chunks or collocations is more effective than memorizing individual words in isolation.
And finally, by mastering this core vocabulary first, you'll be able to communicate effectively in most situations, which will boost your confidence and motivation to keep learning.
That's right. And now we'd love to hear from our listeners. What high-frequency English words or phrases have you found most useful in your everyday life? Which ones do you use all the time?
Yes, please share your thoughts in the comments section. We're always curious to know which words and expressions you find most valuable, and your insights might help other learners too.
And if you have any questions about today's topic or suggestions for future episodes, don't hesitate to let us know. Your feedback helps us create content that's truly helpful for your English learning journey.
That's all we have for today's episode of Real World English. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you found this discussion on the 80-20 rule for vocabulary learning helpful and inspiring.
Until next time, keep practicing your English, focus on those high-frequency words, and remember, you don't need to know every word to communicate effectively.
Take care, everyone, and see you in our next episode.